Hello, my name is Leanne and my presentation will be on Rachel Carson today. Rachel Carson is an American biologist most known for raising awareness in the dangers of environmental pollution. She raised the most awareness through her published books, the first several about aquatic life. However, it was not until 1962 when she published Silent Spring. Silent Spring created a worldwide awareness specifically in the dangers of the pesticides used by agricultural scientists and the government. It described how DDT, an insecticide, entered the food chain and caused cancer and genetic damage among animals and human beings. Before we get into more detail about the impact she had, we'll begin with who she was outside an American biologist, or even better, why she chose to become one. Carson was born on May 27, 1907 in Springdale, Pennsylvania, and was the youngest of 3 children. She developed her love for nature from her mother at a young age. She expressed that passion with the intent of becoming a writing student at the Pennsylvania College for Women. Although she did eventually change her major to marine biology, she continued to intertwine writing and marine biology stemmed from her love for nature. She continued her education after graduating in 1929 at the Oceanographic Institute at Woods Hole, Massachusetts, while a part-time student taking an assistantship in Raymond Pearl's laboratory to earn money for tuition. She next received her master's degree in zoology at Johns Hopkins University in 1932. Pursuing her doctorate was not a choice for her because of her family finances, and unfortunately, she had to support her mother and 2 orphan nieces during the Great Depression. Despite the hardship, she didn't let that hold her back. After her education, Carson became the second woman hired full-time as a scientist and editor with the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries and eventually was promoted as editor-in-chief of the service's publications until 1952. During this time, she started publishing books like Under the Sea Wind, The Sea Around Us, and Silent Spring on the Side, which were all mentioned previously in the beginning of this presentation. Silent Spring only sparked because of a copy of a letter she received in January 1958 by Carson's friend Olga Owen Hunkins to the Boston Herald describing the death of birds around her property after pesticides DDT spraying used to kill mosquitoes, which took place in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Prior to the letter, Carson had already been concerned about the use of synthetic pesticides, many of which had been developed through the military funding of science since World War II. She already started researching the effects of pesticides on the food chain, and this was the push she needed to make more out of her research. She had a community of scientists during this research and had an advantage because of her previous job and had connections with government scientists too. When the Silent Spring wrapped up, the criticism and backlash Carson faced was immediate. 5 weeks before the book came out, there was an uproar which can visibly be seen in the New York Times headline. Here in this, if you guys can see. This picture reads, "Silent Spring is now noisy summer." Even former Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson publicly questioned why she wanted to know about genetics and called her out to be a communist. Although she persevered through it, this book of her caused a huge uproar and controversy amongst the people. Her impact led to a modern global environmentalist movement. Encouraged by this movement and a number of environmental activists, Congress then passed the National Environmental Policy Act that required the federal agency to evaluate environmental impacts of their actions. This led to the creation of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 1969, which finally issued a nationwide partial ban of DDT. Although these achievements happened after the passing of Carson, she was still awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Jimmy Carter in 1980, which again was after her passing. As we know, Carson's concerns were very impactful, especially now though, as agriculture continues to grow. These concerns follow us today, like how these chemicals are harmful to the wildlife. It has raised suspicions of harmful substances even outside the agricultural industry. For example, BPA and endocrine disruptors are suspected to be responsible for an increasing number of problems, including, and I quote, "genital deformities in increasing numbers number of newborn boys, earlier puberty in girls, declining sperm count in adult males, rising rates of prostate and testicular cancer, and problems in sexual development and reproduction. These concerns continue to grow, but without Carson's impact, there wouldn't be as much hope as there is now to reverse these harmful effects. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And before I actually leave, here is my works cited page. This is for my script, the work I actually made, and this is for the visuals of my slideshow. Thank you.